The first dead body appeared in the market 3 nights before anyone understood what was happening. It was found behind a small meat shop. The body belonged to a young man named Daniel Reed. People said Daniel worked late that night. But the strange thing was not the body. The strange thing was his face. Daniel's eyes were wide open. His mouth was frozen in silent terror, like he had seen something that should not exist. And on the ground beside him, someone had scratched a single word with blood: Paleg. No one knew what that word meant. But the fear started that night. The town was called Redwood Falls, Nevada. A quiet place. A small town with only one big night market. People called it Paleg Market. It opened after sunset, and it closed before midnight. For years, nothing strange had ever happened there. Until that night. Police arrived quickly. Sheriff David Collins stood over the body with a flashlight. The cold wind moved through the empty stalls. Plastic covers flapped slowly. Something about the place felt wrong. Sheriff Collins whispered, "What the hell happened here?" One officer pointed to the blood on the ground. "That word again, sir." "Paleg." The sheriff frowned. Maybe a gang sign. But deep inside, he did not believe that. The next morning, the market opened again. People talked about the murder. Some said it was robbery. Some said it was revenge. But the old vendors looked scared, especially an old woman named Maria Lopez. She sold vegetables near the center of the market. When someone asked her about the word Paleg, her hands started shaking. Her voice became quiet. "Do not say that name here." The young man laughed. "It's just a word." Maria looked around the empty stalls. Then she whispered, "That is not a word. That is a warning." But no one believed her. That night the market opened again. Lights glowed above the stalls. People bought food. Children laughed. Everything looked normal. Until 10:43 p.m. A loud metal sound echoed from the back alley. Then silence. A security guard walked toward the sound. His name was Michael Torres. He carried a small flashlight. The alley behind the market was dark. Boxes were stacked near the wall. Rotten fruit smelled in the air. Michael stepped forward slowly. His light moved across the ground. Then he froze. Something was lying between the boxes. A body. Another one. The second victim. Michael's hands started shaking. The man on the ground had the same frozen expression. Eyes wide. Mouth open. Pure terror. And again, written in blood beside the body, Paleg. Michael whispered, "What the hell is Paleg?" Then suddenly the light above him flickered. Once. Twice. Then darkness filled the alley. For 3 seconds, everything was silent. Then behind him someone whispered very slowly and very close, "Paleg is open." Michael turned around quickly, but the alley was empty. No one was there. Only the cold wind moving through the market, and the feeling that something had just started. After the second body was discovered, panic started spreading across Redwood Falls. 2 deaths in 2 nights. Both inside the same market. Both with the same word written in blood, Paleg. Sheriff David Collins closed the market the next evening. Yellow police tape surrounded the entrance. Red and blue lights flashed across the empty stalls. The place felt dead, but something about the silence felt even worse. Officer Ryan Walker checked the security cameras. He sat alone inside the market office. The old computer hummed quietly. The video from the previous night played on the screen. 10:40 p.m. People walking. Food stalls open. Normal night. Then suddenly the camera flickered. Static filled the screen. For 2 seconds. When the image returned, Ryan leaned closer to the monitor. Something had changed. The alley camera showed something strange. At the far end of the alley, a tall dark shape was standing. Not moving. Not walking. Just standing. Ryan frowned. Was that there before? He rewound the footage. The shadow was not there. He played the clip again. The shadow appeared suddenly, like it stepped out of nothing. Ryan felt cold. The shape looked wrong. Too tall. Too thin. And the arms looked long. Too long. Then the shadow moved slowly toward the camera. Ryan felt his heartbeat rising. The camera started glitching again. Static lines crossed the screen. But through the distortion, he saw something terrifying. The shadow had no face. Only darkness. 2 seconds later, the camera went completely black. Ryan sat frozen. His hands felt cold. What the hell was that? Suddenly the office door creaked behind him. Ryan turned quickly. The hallway outside was empty. But he could hear something. Footsteps. Slow footsteps. Walking through the empty market. Step. 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 Ryan grabbed his flashlight. Hello. No answer. The footsteps continued. Step. 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 Coming closer, Ryan walked slowly into the hallway. His flashlight beam cut through the darkness. Empty stalls, plastic covers moving in the wind. But the footsteps continued. Now they were inside the market. Ryan's breathing became heavy. "Sheriff? Is that you?" Silence. Then suddenly the footsteps stopped right behind him. Ryan slowly turned around. His flashlight shook. The beam moved across the stalls, across the empty floor. Then it stopped. Something was standing near stall 17. Tall, thin, completely still. Ryan's heart almost stopped. The figure slowly lifted its head, and in a broken whisper it said one word, "Paleg." The market lights exploded above him. Glass shattered everywhere. Ryan screamed, and the next morning, police found his body near stall 17. His eyes were wide open, his face frozen in terror, and beside him, written in blood again, "Paleg." But this time, there was something else written under it. 3 words, "The market opens." And what the police discovered after that was something no one in Redwood Falls was ready for. The third death changed everything. Now the entire town of Redwood Falls, Nevada was afraid of one place, Paleg Market. 3 bodies in 3 nights, all with the same frozen face, all with the same word written in blood, Paleg. Sheriff David Collins stood inside the empty market at midnight. The yellow police tape moved slowly in the cold wind. The stalls looked like dark skeletons in the night. He had only one question in his mind. "What is Paleg?" Officer Laura Bennett walked toward him. Her face looked pale. "Sheriff, we found something." She handed him a dusty notebook. It belonged to Maria Lopez, the old vegetable vendor. The first pages were normal, lists of vegetables, prices. But near the back, the handwriting changed. It looked shaky, scared. Sheriff Collins read the words slowly. "If you see the shadow, leave the market. If you hear the whisper, run. Because Paleg opens every few years." Sheriff Collins frowned. "This is crazy." Laura pointed to another page. "Read the last part." He turned the page. The writing looked worse now, almost desperate. "Paleg is not a place. Paleg is the thing that waits inside the market." The sheriff felt cold. Laura whispered quietly, "Sheriff, Maria Lopez disappeared yesterday." Before he could answer, a loud metal sound echoed through the market. Both officers froze. The sound came from the meat section. The sheriff grabbed his gun. "Stay behind me." They walked slowly between the stalls. Their flashlights moved across the empty market. Plastic bags moved in the wind. Something banged softly in the distance. They reached the meat stall. The light moved across the floor. "Blood. Fresh blood." Laura gasped. "Oh my God." The blood formed a trail, leading deeper into the market. The sheriff followed it slowly, step by step. The trail stopped near stall 9. The sheriff lifted his flashlight, and his breath stopped. Maria Lopez was sitting on the ground, her back against the wall. Her eyes wide open, but she was still alive, barely breathing. Sheriff Collins ran toward her. "Maria? What happened?" Her lips trembled. Her voice was weak. He is here." The sheriff leaned closer. "Who?" Maria looked at the dark ceiling above the market. Terror filled her eyes. "Paleg." Then suddenly the lights inside the market shut off. Everything went dark. For 3 seconds there was only silence. Then something moved in the darkness above them, something crawling slowly along the ceiling. Laura whispered in horror, "Sheriff, something is up there." And in the darkness, a whisper floated through the empty market, cold, close, and hungry. "The market is open." After that night, Paleg Market was completely closed. Police locked every entrance. Metal chains covered the doors. But fear was already inside the town. People stopped walking near Maple Street, where the market stood. No one wanted to look at it, especially after Maria Lopez died in the hospital. Before she died, she said only one sentence: "The shadow lives in the market." Sheriff David Collins did not believe in monsters. But the security footage haunted him. The tall shadow, the long arms, the empty face. 3 nights later, something strange happened again. The police station received a call at 2:17 a.m. The caller was a teenager. His voice was shaking. "My friend went inside Paleg Market." Sheriff Collins sat up quickly. "What do you mean inside?" "The door was open. We thought the place was abandoned. Then we heard something inside." The sheriff grabbed his keys. "Stay there. I'm coming." 10 minutes later, the sheriff's car stopped outside Paleg Market. The street was empty. Cold wind moved through the dark road. The teenager stood near the entrance. His name was Ethan Parker. His face looked terrified. My friend Jake went inside. Then he started screaming. The sheriff frowned. The market is locked. Ethan shook his head slowly. No. The door opened by itself. The sheriff walked toward the entrance. The heavy metal chains were lying on the ground, broken. The door was slightly open. Darkness waited inside. The sheriff turned on his flashlight. Stay outside. He stepped into the market. The smell inside was horrible, rotten food, dust, and something metallic, like blood. The flashlight moved across the empty stalls. Everything looked abandoned. But then a faint sound echoed through the building. Someone crying. A young man crying in fear. Help! The sheriff walked faster. Jake! The crying came from the center of the market, near stall 17. The sheriff's heart started beating harder. The same stall where Ryan died. The flashlight beam reached the center. Jake was sitting on the floor, his back against the stall. His face looked white. What happened? The sheriff asked. Jake looked up slowly, his eyes full of terror. He is here. The sheriff looked around. There is no one here. Jake shook his head slowly. You cannot see him. Then Jake pointed to the ceiling. The sheriff lifted his flashlight. The light touched the dark roof. For 1 second, nothing was there. Then suddenly something moved. Fast. Too fast. A tall black shape crawled across the ceiling. The sheriff's heart stopped. Long arms. Long legs. No face. Only darkness. The creature stopped above them. Then slowly, it began climbing down the wall. Jake screamed. The sheriff raised his gun. But before he could shoot, the creature whispered something. A voice that sounded like many people speaking at once. Paleg feeds. And in the next second, the market lights turned on by themselves. Every stall lit up, bright, cold, and completely empty. Except for one thing. The sheriff looked down at the floor. Fresh blood was spreading under Jake's body. Jake was not moving anymore. And written beside him, with blood, Paleg is hungry. After Jake's death, the town of Redwood Falls fell into deep fear. No one walked near Paleg Market anymore. The place looked dead, but Sheriff David Collins knew something was still inside. The creature was real. He saw it with his own eyes. The tall shadow, the long arms, the faceless head. It moved like a spider on the ceiling, and it whispered, Paleg feeds. That sentence stayed in his mind. Feeds on what? 3 nights later, the sheriff returned to the market. This time he was not alone. Officer Laura Bennett came with him. 2 other deputies came too. The night was very cold. Wind moved through Maple Street. The market building stood silent in the darkness. Laura looked at the building. I hate this place. The sheriff unlocked the door. The metal chains fell to the ground. They stepped inside. Their flashlights moved slowly across the stalls. Dust floated in the cold air. Everything looked normal. Too normal. The sheriff walked toward the center of the market. Stay close. The officers followed him. Suddenly Laura stopped. Sheriff, look at this. She pointed to the floor. Strange marks covered the concrete. Long scratches, like something heavy was dragged across the ground. The scratches led toward the back of the market, toward an old storage room. The sheriff pushed the door open slowly. The smell inside was horrible, rotten, wet, like something had been dying there for years. Laura covered her nose. Oh God! The flashlight beam moved across the room. Old boxes, broken shelves. Then something strange appeared on the wall. Hundreds of words scratched into the concrete. The same word repeated again and again. Paleg, Paleg, Paleg. But one sentence was written larger than the rest. The sheriff read it slowly. The market feeds the shadow. Laura whispered, what does that mean? Before the sheriff could answer, a low sound came from above them. Everyone looked up. The ceiling moved. Something crawled across it. Fast, too fast. The creature dropped down from the darkness. It landed in the center of the room. Tall, thin, black. The deputies opened fire. Gunshots exploded inside the storage room. But the bullets did nothing. The creature moved like smoke. One deputy screamed. The shadow grabbed him. Then he disappeared into the darkness above. His scream echoed through the market. Then silence. Laura's hands shook. Sheriff, we need to leave. But the sheriff understood something now. The words on the wall. The deaths. The market itself. He whispered slowly. The market is feeding it. Laura looked confused. What? The people who die here, they feed Paleg. Then suddenly the lights inside the market turned on. All of them. Bright white light filled every stall. And the creature's whisper spread through the building. Cold, hungry, endless. The feeding continues. By the next morning, 2 more officers were dead. Only Sheriff David Collins and Laura survived the night. But the truth was finally clear. Paleg was not just a creature. It was something older, something tied to the market itself. The sheriff returned to the building one last time, alone. The sun was setting behind Redwood Falls. The sky looked dark red, like the town was bleeding. The sheriff stepped inside Paleg Market. The building felt alive. Wind moved through the empty stalls. Plastic covers rustled slowly. The sheriff walked to the center, near stall 17, the place where most of the bodies were found. He placed a small recorder on the ground. "If anyone finds this, listen carefully." His voice sounded tired. This market was built in 1958. But before that, this land was something else. The sheriff looked around the empty building. It was a burial ground. Old records say strange things happened here. People disappeared. Voices were heard at night. But the town built the market anyway. The wind grew colder. The sheriff continued. And every few years, Paleg wakes up. His flashlight moved toward the dark ceiling. Something moved there, slowly. The creature was watching him. The sheriff whispered, "You are the shadow that feeds on fear." Silence filled the building. Then the creature began climbing down. Long arms, long legs, no face, only darkness. The sheriff raised his gun, but he did not shoot. Instead, he said quietly, "This ends tonight." The creature stopped in front of him. Then it spoke. A voice made from many voices. "We are always hungry." The sheriff lit a small gasoline can. Flames rose quickly. The fire spread across the floor. The stalls began burning. Smoke filled the building. The creature screamed, a horrible sound, not human, not animal. The sheriff stood still as the fire grew. The market walls cracked. Wood collapsed. The creature twisted in the flames. Its long body burned in the fire. And as the roof finally collapsed, the last thing the sheriff heard was the creature's whisper, "We never die." The entire market burned to the ground that night. Firefighters arrived too late. Paleg Market was gone, completely destroyed. But 3 days later, workers clearing the burned ruins found something disturbing. A single word scratched into the concrete floor, burned into the stone. The same word that started everything, Paleg. And under it, 3 new words. The market returns. 3 days after the fire, the ruins of Paleg Market were silent. Nothing remained except black concrete and broken metal. The smell of smoke still filled the air. Workers came early in the morning to clear the destroyed building. Most of them did not want the job. Everyone in Redwood Falls knew what happened there. But work had to continue. A construction supervisor named Mark Evans walked through the burned ruins. His boots crushed the black ashes under his feet. The sun was rising behind the empty lot. For a moment, the place looked peaceful, like the nightmare was finally over. One worker called out, "Sir, you should see this." Mark walked toward him. The worker pointed to the ground. The fire had burned everything, but the concrete floor was still there, and something was carved into it. One word, Paleg. Mark sighed. Probably someone playing a stupid joke. But the worker shook his head slowly. "There's more." Mark bent down and looked closer. Under the word Paleg, 3 more words were scratched deep into the concrete. The market returns. A cold feeling ran through his body. Mark stood up quickly. "All right, break this floor." 2 workers brought heavy tools. They started breaking the concrete. Pieces of burned floor broke apart. Dust filled the air. After a few minutes, one worker suddenly stopped. "Sir, there's something under here." Mark stepped closer. The broken concrete revealed something dark below. Not soil, not dirt. It looked like an empty space. A hole. Mark grabbed a flashlight and pointed it inside. The light moved down slowly. 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet. Then the light touched something. A wall. But the wall was covered in scratches. Thousands of scratches. The same word written again and again. Paleg, 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 Paleg. The workers stepped back slowly. One of them whispered, "What is this place?" Mark shined the light deeper. The hole was not small. It was a tunnel, an old underground chamber, hidden under the market. Suddenly, a cold wind blew out of the tunnel. A deep breath, like something below had just awakened. The workers looked at each other nervously. Then something moved in the darkness, very slowly. A long shape crawled along the tunnel wall. Mark's hands started shaking. The flashlight beam followed the movement. And then, they saw it. A tall black shape inside the darkness. Long arms, long legs, Its body moved slowly toward the light. One worker screamed, "That thing is alive!" The creature stopped at the bottom of the tunnel. Its faceless head tilted upward toward the people standing above. Then it whispered, a voice made from many voices, cold, hungry, ancient. "Paleg never burns." The workers ran back in panic. But Mark could not move. He kept staring into the tunnel. The creature slowly began climbing upward, like a spider on a wall. Closer, closer. Then suddenly the flashlight died. Darkness swallowed everything. And in that darkness, a final whisper floated from the hole. The market will open again. 2 weeks later, the town council made a decision. They would rebuild the market. A new building, a new name, a fresh start for Redwood Falls. Construction started on Maple Street. But the workers noticed something strange. Every morning, when they arrived at the site, a single word appeared in the dust. No one saw who wrote it. No cameras caught anything. But the word always returned, written slowly across the ground, Paleg. And if you ever visit Redwood Falls, Nevada, and walk through the new market at night, you might hear something above you. A slow crawling sound, moving across the ceiling, waiting, hungry. Because some places are not haunted by ghosts. Some places are haunted by something worse. Something that waits patiently for the market to open again. If you enjoyed this horror story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon for more terrifying stories.